The Kutama were a major Berber people in northern Algeria. The tribe was known as Ukutamanorum under the Romans, and subsequently identified as the Ucutamani under the Byzantines. The Kutama played a pivotal role during the Fatimid Caliphate, forming the bulk of the Fatimid army which eventually overthrew the Aghlabids who controlled Ifriqiya, and which then went on to conquer Egypt and the southern Levant in 969 to 975. The Kutama remained one of the mainstays of the Fatimid army until well into the 11th century. Origins of the Kutama. The Kutama are part of the Brains branch of Berbers, which regroups the Sanhaja. The Kutama are related to the Zuayawit and are located in the larger Kabylia region. They are neighboring the Zenati of the Ulhasa in the eastern part towards Ann Arbor and the Oris. In his book, published in 1867, Ernest Mercier mentions the presence of Al-Hakka in the vicinity of Ann Arbor in Algeria today. The Kutamas were a group of eastern Algeria in the 13th century located at the border terminals wilayas of Bajar and Constantine and the borders of the Oris, which corresponds to La Petite Kabylia Kabylia Oriental in the 20th century. The Zejala are a part of Ulhasa in the Medjana, a plain bordered by the Oris. They are installed near the Oris Mountains EIAD. Today, representatives of the Al-Asta live in the neighborhood of Wad Tafna west of modern Algeria in the wilaya of Ain Temouche and near Tlemcen. The Kutamas on the other hand also settled in the Rif. This is why we find in the Rif region of Morocco tribes akin to that dynasty. An anecdote explaining the origins of the term Kutama is recounted by the 10th century Ismaili jurist Al-Qadi al-Newman in his work entitled Iftitar al-Dawa, in which a preacher by the name of Abu Abd Allah al-Shii encountered a group of Shi'i Kutama on the pilgrimage at Mecca in 893 CE. Upon meeting him, this particular group of Kutama pilgrims became convinced of the Ismaili faith and brought Abu Abd Allah along with them back to the country of origin. Along the way, Abu Abd Allah asked the pilgrims about a region called the Valley of the Pious. The Kutama were astounded that he knew of this place and asked how he came to hear of it. Citing a prophetic tradition of Muhammad, Abu Abd Allah replied that in fact this place was named after the very Kutama themselves. The Mahdi shall emigrate far from his home at a time full of trials and tribulations. The pious of that age shall support him, a people whose name is derived from Kitmin. Quote, he explained that it was to the Kutama that the tradition referred, and on account of them that the region was named the Valley of the Pious. History of the Kutama was in the beginning of the Muslim era and in the Middle Ages that their influence was the greatest. The Maghreb is the historic home of the great Berber tribe Kutama, who played a considerable role in the Middle Ages, mainly because it was behind the creation of the Fatimid Empire in the 10th century. The Fatimid state was one of the largest empires of Islamic history that extended from today's Morocco to Saudi Arabia. Unlike other Muslim authorities, the Fatimids based their administration not on tribal, ethnic or even religious criteria, but primarily on merit and competence. The Kutama and other Berbers were attracted by this. In the early 10th century, the Kutama formed a coalition with the Shia Fatimids against the Sunni Aghlabids who ruled Ifriqiya and supported the Abbasids. The Kutama became fierce protectors of the new Fatimid state and constituted the mainstay of its army. Abu Abd Allah ash-Shi'i, Shiite missionary, met the Kutama and paved the way for his master Ubayd Allah al-Mahdi, a Shiite Ismaili from Syria and founder of the Fatimid Caliphate, to be presented as the Mahdi. Abu Abdullah ash-Shi'i's dream was to topple the Sunni power in Abbasid Baghdad in favor of a Shiite dynasty. In the 903 the Kutama, by then converted to Shiism and also to the ideology ideology of al-Mahdi, began the uprising. On March 19, 909, they destroyed Aghlabid dynasty installed by the Abbasids in Ifriqiya near Laribis. 6 days later, they entered the Aghlabid capital, Raqada. Later the Fatimid capital was moved to Mahdiya. The Fatimids, with their Kutama army under Jafar al-Sikili, conquered Egypt in 969. A new Fatimid capital named Al-Qahira, meaning the victorious, was founded. The Kutamas installed a military camp near Cairo, forming a formidable military power in the service of the Fatimid Caliph. They led later expeditions to Damascus against the Abbasids. The district Kutama el-High Kotamin in Cairo and the Maghreb area of al-Harad Maghariba in Damascus still testify to the influence of this tribe, whose members were, during different periods, repressed by the Abbasids and their allies. Saladin in 1171 overthrew the Fatimids in 1171 and returned Egypt to Sunni Abbasid allegiance. The Siwis, Berbers of Egypt, Ukutama. After conquering Egypt, the Fatimids left the Maghreb under the general Kutama Bolahan ibn Ziri as the governor of Ifriqiya. He became the founder of the Zirid dynasty. Kutamas in the 21st century, but according to Al-Idrisi there were only 4,000 individuals throughout the Ifriqiya. The Kutamas was located before in the provinces of Bejayat-Jiyel, Satif, and West Mila. Kutama culture is still present to some wide extent. For instance, the fish couscous, sex ubelard, popular in this region and in northern Tunisia, is of Kutama origin. From a cultural standpoint, the inhabitants of this region keep track of their identity as Kutama, but most tribes have been assimilated to the Kabyles, Arabs, and the Kabyles al-Hadra, Qaita, and Skikda, Setif. There are also descendants of Kutama Siwis in Egypt. The challenge to resist the influence of the dominant tribes, such as the Sanhadja of the Bani Hilal, and the dynasties who succeeded the Fatimids, such as the Ayyubids, the Hamidids, the Almoravids, and the Almohads, was difficult. That there is a Kutama identity today is evidence of the persistence in the face of these challenges. The language of the Kutama has largely been Arabized or diluted with other Berber dialects.